Hi, everyone. Now we're going to move next to the lymphatic and immune system. And I want to share a little bit of my personal story or experience with you. I think that really helps understand how everything works in the body and basically how I learned how to deal with many of the problems with my lymphatic and immune system. Well, just as a summary, like I mentioned before, that I had issues dealing with anxiety and stress, especially in relationships and work. So around my late 20s and 30s, early 30s, I was emotionally drained because I have been my mom's caregiver for over 10 years. I also had a job in lab diagnostics at the time, which was very inflexible with the hours and stressful environment. It got even worse during the 2020 pandemic because we were really busy with all the COVID testing. And I was also in a very toxic relationship with my ex partner at that time. And all these emotional triggers suppressed my immune system, and it was causing my cortisol levels to peak. So, as a consequence, I had recurrent UTIs, which led me to take a lot of antibiotics. And that will cause yeast infections because there was a gut imbalance, in my body. And then eventually I started developing eczema because it was like all combined, kind of like feeling unwell all the time. And I was just learning, my body at the time. I didn't really understand what was happening. And I just actually, got used to dealing with this like on a daily basis. And it was pretty sad because I was never healthy, but I just found it, like the new norm. Like it was okay. I was still going out, like with my life, going to work, trying to do my best, but I was never feeling well. Also, my skin has been pretty clear and healthy most of my life. So that was my biggest indicator that I needed to take immediate action because I started my healing journey with acupuncture, which helped me deal with unprocessed emotions. I did take Chinese herbal supplements to reduce the flare ups in my skin, but most of it was all related to my lifestyle. It was very, very unhealthy lifestyle. And it took me a while to, kind of like take ownership of what I was doing. But in essence, I'm just letting you know that I had to go through all of this to understand how my body worked. And that's a good thing, I guess. But it was pretty painful. So in this chapter, I'm just gonna talk about a little bit how the lymphatic system is the body's detox highway. Because really, the immune system is your defense intelligence. Because together, these two protect every organ, tissue, and cell. That's why I was always feeling unwell because when one wasn't training, the other one wasn't able to protect me, and I was always sick. And it's a really, really vicious cycle, and I don't really recommend anybody to, live through this, but that's how my life used to be. Now, interesting thing is 75% of lymph flows near the gut. And that's what I was saying. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping much. I was always full of inflammation. I was pretty difficult to have rest or to even like regenerate cells because I was always deficient of everything. Like even I wasn't absorbing any nutrients because my gut was basically pretty weak. So when the lymph stagnates, that's when everything happens. Like I was saying, inflammation, swelling, brain fog, fatigue, hormonal imbalance. And when the immunity weakens, you are prone to infections, the allergies, autoimmunity. So this is basically everything that I was going through at the time. And I just didn't know what to do about it. So in essence, I want you to learn from my mistakes. So learning outcomes for this chapter, I just want you to know at least what the lymphatic system does and why stagnation leads to disease. Basically, how immunity works, the innate and adaptive immunity that we have in our system. Any signs of lymphatic overload, very important to understand them. I will provide also some Ayurvedic and modern ways to support the lymph flow. The heavy metals and immune disruption. I think we mentioned that for the previous system, and this also applies here. There's also going to be food, herbs, and movement practices for daily lymph hygiene, we can call it that. And then we'll start with how lymphatic and immune system really works. So when I first learned that the body holds nearly 60% water, I realized something simple, yet profound. So health is movement. It's like, that's what we call it the waters of life, right? This is the chapter. Because if our internal waters stagnate, life begins to fade, really. So the lymphatic and immune systems are like silent rivers in our body. They are constantly flowing beneath the surface to wash away what no longer serves us, carrying nourishment to where it's needed the most. But unlike the bloodstream, the lymphatic system has no heart to pump it, right? It relies on your own rhythm. So our movement, our breath, our emotions, as I was saying, when we stay still too long, physically or emotionally, our waters grow murky because that's what causes the fatigue, the swelling, the inflammation. It's just basically our body whispering that our river has slowed, right? And that's when you need to be extremely careful because your body will always tell you or give you signs, but you have to be able to listen to them. Now, just an anatomy of the flow, like a brief summary. So your immune system and lymphatic are a network of lymph vessels, nodes. You have the thymus, the spleen, tonsils, and bone marrow. So basically, you cannot really detox anything if your lymph isn't moving. And it's basically like a second circulatory system that runs parallel to your bloodstream. As it collects the fluid from tissues, filters it through lymph nodes, and returns it to the veins. And in this process, it removes all the cellular waste, the toxins, the pathogens, while transporting immune cells throughout the body. So at its core are the lymph nodes, which are very small bean-shaped filters. They're scattered through the many parts of your body, the neck, your armpits, chest, abdomen. So they're basically like a border checkpoints where the white blood cells, which are called lymphocytes, and they identify the invaders, and that's how they decide how to respond. The spleen and the thymus gland are the command centers of this system because the spleen filters blood and destroys all red blood cells, while the thymus trains immature immune cells to recognize a friend from foe. So they know how to respond, how to protect you. Now, let's talk about more about the lymphatic and immune system functions. So I was saying, these two are very important for detoxification, the immune surveillance, nutrient transport, and fat absorption. So interesting fact, the lymphatic system is as essential as the bloodstream, but is yet far more neglected because we really don't understand how this works. And is one of the most important ones, actually, because when the lymph flow is sluggish, toxins accumulate, the immune defense weakens, and the inflammation rises. So that paves the way to chronic illnesses, the fatigue, and the premature aging. And all about Ayurveda is, focus on aging gracefully. And that's why I'm always, kind of like emphasizing how you need to understand your body and be able to listen to it. Now, how does the lymph move? It can move through muscle contraction, breath, as we mentioned before. Hydration is key. Gravity, walking, rebounding, massage. Lymphatic massage is very important. A lot of people do it as a nighttime, or you can use Ayurveda oils to help with the flow, especially if you want to massage your vagus nerve. It's very powerful because the essence is that when you don't move, your lymph doesn't either. It needs to be moved by you because it doesn't have a pump on its own. Okay, so what are some of those signs of toxicity? A lot of people experience puffy faces. Swollen hands and feet are the most uncomfortable ones. for daily activities, brain fog when you just can't remember things or sometimes just can't concentrate, constipation, the cellulite, fatigue, allergies, sinus congestions, acne or rashes or eczema, as I had before, hormonal, like symptoms and the water retention that are really uncomfortable. That's just your body telling you something is stagnant, right? But science shows that the lymph circulation depends heavily on physical movement. So the breathing and the hydration are key as well. But again, unlike the blood, the lymph moves very slowly. It's about 120 millimeters per hour. But it speeds up dramatically with the muscle contraction and the deep diaphragmatic breathing. That's why we also have breath work, and it's really good the exercise because that really, really helps move everything in your body. So regular exercise, especially gentle forms like yoga or the rebounding, as I mentioned before, the mini trampoline or anything that stimulates lymphatic drainage is essential. So water is equally vital, because in essence, dehydration thickens lymph fluid, making it harder to move. So hydrating with electrolyte, balanced water, herbal infusions, or mineral-rich broths keeps the lymph viscosity low, allowing efficient transport. So we do have two different types of immunity. The first, general defense that your body is born with, the innate immunity, and that's through your skin, mucus, stomach acid, macrophages, inflammation. It's kind of like a way of responding, like a fast, quick defense in your body. And then you have the adaptive immunity, which is targeted, B cells, T cells, antibodies, immune memory. It's just your body understanding, like a past virus that you have or infection, your body will adapt, right? Because it knows what it's looking at. And when it's something new, of course, it's difficult. It's similar to what happened back in 2020. But our bodies are always adapting. So your body learns pretty quick, not only when you're born, but as you start aging and you start treating it nicely, your immunity gets stronger. So you have to work with your body. Now, there's a lymph immune connection because every lymph node is kind of like a small laboratory where the pathogens are filtered, your immune cells communicate, memory cells are formed, and toxins are neutralized. Because 70 to 80% of immune cells are located in the gut associated lymphoid tissue, which is also known as GALT, because it's basically how your brain is connected to your gut in a way to summarize it. But that's just how it is. It's just so important, to keep those two in check, especially gut. The gut, like I said, for me is the first brain. Oh, sorry. Let me continue to next. Now let's talk about a little bit of lymph and Ayurveda. So we have two terms, rasa. Rasa just means whenever your lymph is sluggish, when there's a stagnation, and then rakta, whenever it's impure, there's inflammation and skin disorders. And that's why when you are not, your body's not clean, you have no life force and not enough oxygen or blood circulation. When the rasa is sluggish, you have probably problems with plasma, hydration, lymph, and nourishment. Basically, that's all of this is summarizing for the Ayurvedic terms. And now, what really helps the lymph? Walking, very important. Rebounding, like I said, you can do yoga or not, but any type of stretching is good. Inversions is good because also the flow is always flowing in one direction. It's always good to do an inversion to go the other way because your body's not used to it and it helps it a lot. And deep breathing. Deep breathing is key because movement is medicine. Now we have also, we talk about how hydration is important and you can use warm water is better for your chi. Chi is just, kind of a way to say all the life force in your body. You need to make sure that it's, you're properly hydrated and it's flowing. Lemon water is alkaline, so it keeps your body in a good place, especially when you're fasting in the morning. It has to be warm water with lemon, pretty good. We also have herbal teas, cucumber with mint is pretty good, and coconut water is very refreshing because dehydration thickens the lymph, and we don't want it, right? We want it to flow properly. Now, what is a flow support? Like, what helps support the lymph flow? They would say lymphatic massage, really good for reducing the swelling. It also improves the detox. It helps with the skin glow, and it does reduce cellulite and boosts immunity. Infrared sauna, I've used it in the past. It's really good. Red light therapy, especially for immune activation, circulation. Some people even say heavy metal detox. I haven't tried it for it, but definitely for the skin purification. I can say that that was something that I really, really liked. So we can talk about all of this, but you guys know that there's going to be a list of all the different things that you can use for herbal support. Because in essence, these ones promote drainage, detox, and immune balance. I really like, trifala is basically the dry powder. It's like fruit that has been dried with Ayurveda practices where you can take it at night. It helps with any problems in your digestive system, but any of these will help. So there's also nutrient-based chelation that you can use. Let me see if I have. You can also use the supplements, or you can use chelation. Chelation just means like faster, because sometimes they can put it in IV, which I have used in the past. But you can also take these vitamins here, like vitamin C, quercetin, zinc, selenium, omega-3, NAC. They all help. They're pretty powerful. You can take it as a vitamin. You can also do it as a chelation therapy, because chelation really is fast acting for heavy metal detox. Like I was saying, today we live in a modern world where everything is full of toxins. We have poor diets, emotional stress, overload, the lymphatic system and immune system. So it's always important to make sure that we don't accumulate this in the fat tissues and lymphatic channels, because really these pollutants interfere with cellular communication and immune recognition. So that leaves our body very vulnerable to chronic inflammation and autoimmune reactions. So the only say I would say that to detoxify the lymphatic system naturally, we can use nutrient-based chelation, as I was saying, or you can also use vitamins and minerals like vitamin C, or the other ones I mentioned before. And even something as simple as dry brushing is a practice used in both Ayurveda and modern, again, naturopathy. Stimulates the lymphatic flow. It exfoliates the skin and wakes up the nerve endings. So that, combined with hydration, either sweating in a sauna or any movement, it helps the body naturally release what's been stored for too long. And again, we don't want to have any suppressed immune cells, damage to our mitochondria. We don't want to activate any chronic inflammation, impair lymph drainage, or trigger autoimmunity. The chelation is really, really important, and it can be done, like I said, diet, vitamins, all together, along with any IV or kind of like vitamin boost that your body will need to release all of this from your lymph. So this is what another foods that chelate the heavy metals, similar to the digestive system: spirulina, chlorella, cilantro, garlic, blueberries, antioxidants, really good. Brazil nuts, which have a lot of selenium, broccoli, and turmeric. Yep. And now we have also top foods that clean the lymphatic system. Citrus fruits, berries, beets are very important in your diet. Leafy greens, I do eat them every day. Seaweed in moderation, as well as ginger and turmeric. I always take them together. Watermelon and cucumber, very refreshing and delicious. So I would just recommend avoiding dairy, any processed sugars, of course. Fried foods are never good for your body. Processed meats and ice cold drinks, just try to avoid them as much as possible. I know it's hard sometimes when you're on the go, but if you can just make your own, prepare your own drink at home, or just make sure that you take your food with you, that helps me a lot when I travel. Now, I would say the top immune boosting food that I found is definitely garlic. Garlic is really powerful. Doesn't matter how you eat it, as long as it's part of your diet. Mushrooms, green tea, the ghee that you can make or buy, as long as it's from a good source. Bone broth, almonds, pumpkin seeds, anything that is omega-3 rich fish. Now we have problems with microplastic, but you have to be pretty careful when you're buying your fish. Where is it coming from? At least understanding, if it's farm raised or not. I mean, has it been treated properly? Because you don't want to eat fish that is not, healthy or clean. Anyway, thank you so much for, coming to the end of this chapter. Again, we're just recapping any lymphatic and immune system relationship, along with any advice or what we're gonna stop it right here. And thank you for watching.